Once upon a time, there lived a kingdom called Obi, the Obi Kingdom. The Obi people lived a prosperous life. This was because of their strongest warrior, Afam. Afam was a warrior of Ikenga. He was stronger than 100 men. He defeated many kingdoms and brought riches to his people. He was kind and beloved by all. His only problem was that he liked women. He liked them a lot. He would deceive young maidens, saying that he will marry them and he will sing sweet love to them all night. But when morning comes, he will deny them like a man denies unwanted pregnancy. This went on for a while until he met Asa. Asa was a very beautiful woman. Her beauty was like a shining sun. Afam fell in love with her. She was the one, he said. He loved her more than any other. Asa had heard about Afam's notorious midnight escapades, but he assured her that she was different. His heart had never beat for someone like this before. Asa, like all naive maidens, thought she was different. Afam loved her and no one else. Her mother warned her. She told her to be wary of men like Afam. Yes, he was a strong man. He was rich. He has brought prosperity to the people. He was kind and desirable, but he had yet to be able to master his body and therefore could not make a responsible husband. But Asa did not listen. Like all maidens who were swept off their feet, she was far too gone. She spent the night with Afam singing songs of love. The next day, Afam did not want anything to do with her. She was shocked. "What did you say?" she asked. "I am a warrior. I do not have time to spend singing songs with silly girls like you." "I have more important things to do," Afam said. Asa was heartbroken. "How could this happen to me?" she said. "You told me you loved me. You said I was different. Why would you do this to me?" "Go home and cry," Afam said. "I do not have time for silly dramas." Asa went home crying. She cried and cried and cried all day and all night. For you see, having your flower untouched at that time was very important. In some cases, it even meant life or death. It only belonged to your husband. Thinking that Afam would marry her, she had believed his sweet words like a fool. "What happened?" her mother asked, but Asa did not say anything. The next day, Asa noticed that the other girls her age were looking at her with disgust. She had told them and she had flaunted before them how she was going to be Afam's wife. She was the one he loved. But now she was no longer with him, which only meant he had thrown her away like a dried up mango seed. Asa cried in shame. She could not face her friends. In despair, she killed herself. She fell into a stream and drowned. This was a very serious abomination. Because of this, her body was thrown into the evil forest, as was tradition. Such a person could not be buried. This made her mother so sad. She cried and cried, saying, "I want her. I want her. Now see what she has done to herself." In pain and resentment, Asa's mother, Uju, went to the god of death, Obunabali. She asked for vengeance. Obunabali ruled over the land of the dead. He was the one who brought death to all. In the spirit world, his brother was Ikenga. Ikenga was the opposite. Ikenga ruled over light. He was the god of war and strength. Hearing the cries of Uju, Obunabali took an interest in her pleas, not because of Asa, and not because of Uju herself, but because of Afam. He had been waiting for Afam to fall into his trap, and now the time had come. During a spiritual meeting of all the African gods, Obunabali told his brother Ikenga of Uju's pleas. As was the law of the spirit, Afam had to be punished for his part in what happened to Asa. What made matters worse is that Asa was pregnant and she did not know this. She killed herself. Now that child cries for justice from the evil forest. Ikenga was not happy to hear this. He had told his chief priest many times to warn that Afam. His obsession with women would get him into trouble. Now see what he has gotten himself into. Obunabali went on to say that Uju, Asa's mother, had asked that Afam be made mad and wander the earth till the end of time. The woman had offered her own blood as sacrifice for this, and as such, Obunabali, under the spiritual laws of the land, was bound to uphold his own end. I warned you, didn't I? This your servant will get himself into trouble one day. Look at it now. The next day, in the land of the living, the Obi people held a festival. The king's son was to be coronated as crown prince. He would be the one to succeed the king, and as tradition, he had to be coronated as crown prince. Everyone was happy. Everyone attended the festival, including Afam. There was drinking, eating, dancing, and celebration. There were beautiful women everywhere. One such beautiful woman came up to Afam. She was dancing seductively, and Afam liked this. They danced together for a while, and then she offered him some wine to drink, which he did. He told her that she was the most beautiful woman he had seen. He had fallen in love with her. The woman laughed. I'm sure you said that to all the maidens. Afam said, no, I do love you. As they continued to dance, Afam began to lose focus. The woman kept smiling and dancing. Afam tried his best to keep up, but something was wrong. He could not seem to focus. How can that be? He said to himself. What's happening? Gradually, he became dizzy. Then everything became a fog. He turned to look at the woman, but before his very eyes, the woman turned into a man. She was no longer smiling. Before him was a tall man. The man looked at him with evil in its eyes. Afam brought out his knife, aiming it at the man, but it was difficult since he could not focus. The only thought in his mind was to protect the king and the crown prince. He raised his hand and struck the man. He could see blood on his own hands. Then he could hear screams. People were screaming. Afam brought out his other knife. He had to protect the king. Then from nowhere an arrow struck him. He felt sharp pain, and then he screamed and fell to the ground. He fainted. Afam woke up. He saw himself in the king's dungeon. Why am I here? He asked. The guards did not respond to him. They didn't even look at him. How can you lock me up here? I am a warrior, the strongest of all warriors. I can break these doors now, Afam said. Open it! But the guards did not respond. Afam moved to break the doors down, and that's when he realized that his strength was gone. How can this be? He asked. He tried again with all his might, but still the doors did not break down. He was Afam, the strongest warrior of Ikenga. He could break walls. How much more a door? What is happening? He seemed like an ordinary man. Then suddenly the guards opened the door and took him out. They were taking him to the king. All the while they treated him like he was dog poo. He was chained and brought before the king. The cabinet members, the villagers, the queen, and even the king looked at him in disgust. For God's sake, what's going on? He asked. What is wrong? Do not act dumb, the king shouted, you evil man. Afam was confused. He turned to the chief priest, the only person who could trust now, since the chief priest was the mouthpiece of Ikenga. What happened, please? Tell me what happened, Afam asked. The chief priest, without mixing words, said, you killed the crown prince. Me? Never. I would never do that. The king slapped him. Ikenga doubled over. We saw you, he shouted. Like a madman, you lunged at my son. A boy who respected you. A boy who looked up to you. Why will you do such a thing to us? Afam was confused. The queen started crying. The king looked at Afam as if he was a dead rat. You are hereby banished from this village. Because Afam was a warrior of Ikenga, Afam could not be killed. Instead, the king had the mark of a murderer burnt into his body. He had the mark of the 4 symbols instead of 3. The four symbol indicated that Afam had killed a member of the royal family, the highest offense of the land. Afam was thrown out. He was no longer powerful, so every stone thrown at him, every blow took a toll on him. That night, Afam laid under the mango tree, crying, "What happened? What have I done?" Then the chief priest appeared to him. Afam jumped up and knelt down before him. "Ezemo, what is all this? Why has Ikenga abandoned me?" The chief priest shouted at him, "No one abandoned you, you fool. How many times were you warned about your loose behavior? See what you have done to yourself." Afam still looked confused like a fool. The chief priest then asked, "What did you do to Asa?" Afam was confused. "Asa? Who is Asa? What does she have to do with this?" The chief priest turned and looked at Afam as if he was an idiot. "You wrote a song with that girl named Asa all through the night. The following day, you denied ever knowing her. She had told everyone that you had assured her of marriage. When you failed to marry her, she killed herself. Her mother Uju made a covenant with Obunabali, the god of death. She has placed a curse on you. You run mad and die a tragic death." That night, during the coronation, Obunabali had found a way to make you mad, and in that mad craze, you had killed the prince. Of course, the people don't know this. They just saw that you attacked the prince. Before they could come to their senses, the prince had died, and then you collapsed beside him. Ikenga was able to strike a deal with the god of death. If by 3 months you do not find somebody who you truly love this time, and the person loves you back, then you will die in 3 months' time. Afam was dumbfounded. First of all, he did not even know that Asa had died. Then come to find out that her mother had placed a curse on him. What was he to do? He was a marked man now, with no strength, no money, nothing. Who would love him? "Please help me. What should I do?" The chief priest turned to him and said, "When you were singing songs of love, did I not warn you? Did you heed my warnings? Only you can help yourself now. Remember, you have 3 months to live." And with that, the chief priest disappeared. Afam was so sad and regretful of his actions. If only he knew what Asa would have done. He roamed the land, not able to settle in any village because of his mark, which told people that he was a murderer. He had to live in the jungle. For the rest of his days, he was waiting for his death. During the day, he would be mad, and at night, he would return to his senses. One night as he slept, he was awoken by a scream. He stood up and went up a tree. Looking down, he saw 2 men trying to attack a woman. Without thinking, he jumped at both men, attacking them. But he was not as strong as he used to be, so the men beat him up. They were about to kill him when the woman threw a stone at one of them. It hit his head and he fell down in pain. He called to his partner saying, "Let's leave this place. We'll come back again." So they left. Afam was bleeding from everywhere. He was in so much pain. But instead, he asked the woman if she was okay. That's when he noticed that she was blind. She smiled at him, thanking him for saving her life. She explained that she got lost and did not know her way home. "I can take you home," Afam said. Thank you so much for listening to another episode. If you liked it, please subscribe, like, comment, share. Thank you to those who have subscribed. Thank you to those who have supported. Until next time, goodbye.